Tim joins us now. Tim, was there any word today on a company who might actually want to build this new potential pipeline?
Yes, the big question, Tara, or the next big question, really, because the next tall task for Alberta's premier will be finding one or more private proponents to jump on board. Now, the thinking right now is a lot of those private companies are just holding off a little bit. They don't want to commit to anything until they find out what sort of regulations could be on a potential pipeline. And there is some talk in the industry today that a number are also hoping Ottawa will swoop in with a constitutional mechanism that will ensure that any potential pipeline is not just a potential pipeline, that it actually gets built and is not just tied up endlessly in the courts. So a lot of details still to come out, Tara, but we're hoping to learn some, if not most of them, tomorrow. Teachers we chatted with today say this new deal feels awfully similar to one they've already rejected, and so for that reason, they do not believe it will be accepted. We should know around this time on Monday night whether it goes through or not, and well, I don't have to remind viewers, Tara, they all know that if that deal is denied and if no alternative deal can be reached, teachers will be striking on October 6th.
And Tim, that wasn't the only protest in Alberta today.
Yes, 51,000 teachers and about 750,000 students should be in Alberta classrooms today, Tara, but instead, many of them are in places like this, protesting in both Calgary and Edmonton. Everyone agrees it's time to get back to school, but unfortunately, not everyone agrees on how that should happen.
But we start with Timm Bruch, who has the nuts and bolts of the agreement. And Tim, it lays out precisely what is necessary for a pipeline to the Pacific to proceed.
Yes, Tara, as you mentioned there, the agreement should pave the way for Alberta to move more bitumen, not only to the coast, but to some in-demand markets overseas, specifically in Asia. But it's worth noting here, this is just the first step in what's sure to be an extremely long journey. Pen finally to paper. A long-rumored memorandum of understanding was officially signed Thursday. Most notably, it'll open the door to a new crude pipeline from northern Alberta to the Pacific.
Today is a great day for the people of Alberta and for all of Canada.
The idea is to eventually move at least 1 million additional barrels of oil a day. The line will need Indigenous co-ownership and approval and will have to include economic benefits for BC.
We look at this as the start of a process. We've created some of the necessary conditions for this to happen, but there's a lot more work to do.
Timelines are still murky. Alberta will submit its official pipeline application and routes by July 1st. If that's approved, the fastest best-case scenario could see shovels in the ground by 2029 and oil flowing by the mid to late 2030s. It'll all need to be driven by a private proponent. No federal or provincial taxpayer money will be involved.
If there's not a private sector proponent, there won't be a pipeline.
I'm pretty confident with the people we have at the table that one or a consortium of them, once we establish that it is on the major projects list, will be willing to take this on.
And there are other terms. Alberta must construct thousands of megawatts of AI computing power and increase its industrial carbon price. In theory, that should help drastically lower oil patch methane emissions to a new target of 75%. There's also a promise to construct and finance the Pathways Alliance carbon capture project.
We are going to get to our greenhouse gas objectives, our climate objectives, by only through massive investment. And so we need agreements like this in order to drive that massive investment.
Ottawa has also agreed to suspend its proposed emissions cap and Alberta's clean electricity requirement. A big win ahead of a big task for the Danielle Smith government.
This is Alberta's moment of opportunity. Our opportunity to show the nation, as well as the entire world, that resource development and emissions reduction can not only coexist, but can actually complement one another.
Now, the Premier said today that the PM has agreed to address 7 of her 9 so-called bad laws. I know a lot of viewers out there will want to know what will be made of the tanker ban. Well, we can tell you tonight that federal government officials have said adjustments will be made to that ban should a pipeline be approved and then eventually built. We don't have specifics of what that might look like, but I can tell you that a lot of people in the province are thrilled about that, and they feel like any carve-out will be sufficient. Tara?
Okay, Tim, thank you for that.
At an unrelated press conference, Alberta's premier gave an update on a much-anticipated healthcare report.
Before I even came down, we hadn't received it yet, so I don't know if he's delayed them. I think they're still anticipating receiving it today.
In March, a former Manitoba judge was hired by Danielle Smith's government to look into allegations of corruption in healthcare. And after being pushed back multiple times, the final report finally arrived Wednesday.
We want to be able to show the public what the judge found, what his recommendations are, and then be able to respond to the recommendations quickly.
The judge is looking into multi-million-dollar government contracts for private surgeries and foreign children's medication. He's trying to determine whether there were any conflicts of interest between the providers and government staff. It was all sparked after a wrongful dismissal lawsuit filed by the former head of AHS. Athena Mensalopoulos was fired as she was investigating procurement concerns. In a social media video, the province is shedding some light on its new healthcare plans.
We're calling it the dual practice surgery model, and here's how it will work.
Surgeons will soon be allowed to offer elective procedures paid for by patients or their insurance after they commit to a minimum number of publicly funded surgeries per year.
A surgeon could choose to perform publicly funded surgeries during regular business hours, while performing private surgeries after regular business hours or on weekends.
The plan is aimed at cutting high surgery wait times, a stat that currently leaves many far beyond safe thresholds.
This is another avenue where medical professionals and Albertans can connect and perhaps do additional surgeries that are currently done out of province.
But it won't just be surgery. Alberta's Minister of Hospital and Surgical Health Services says there are plans to broaden out the model to allow other health professionals a chance to mix public and private care. He wouldn't say what healthcare providers will be impacted.
They did not campaign on this. They do not have a mandate. Call an election.
That's right.
Some health professionals already work outside of the public stream, but the things they do, cosmetic surgeries, for example, are not covered by public insurance. Experts are convinced these changes will only further incentivize private practice.